Okay, it's Sunday 25th of March 2018 and this is a review meeting for the learning program Work Health and Safety Training. Thank you, Joanne, for completing the learning program evaluation tool and sending it back to me. I would like to welcome any feedback that you have.
Okay, well, on the whole, Joe, I think that you've done a really good job of your learning program, but there are just a few things that I would really like to feed back to you. So I think we'll just start by going through the learning program evaluation tool that you sent through, if that's okay. So the delivery mode, you chose face-to-face classroom-based learning, which is pretty appropriate for 20 learners. I mean, you're going to be able to cover quite a large group by doing face-to-face learning. The only thing I did think was in your plan you decided that you were going to do that 3 days in a row, and I just wonder if like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's just a bit of information overload and your learners might need a little bit of time to process some of that information. So maybe one of my recommendations would be just to maybe deliver that program over maybe 3 weeks instead of 3 days, or even 2 weeks, you know, just so that they've got a bit of gap between their training, and you can revisit those learning objectives at the beginning of each session to ensure that they've managed to retain information and move forward with that. So I guess that's one of the things I thought about for your delivery mode. Yep. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So moving on to competency requirements. So I did think that in your program you had got quite a wide variety of learning and assessment activities. I was just a little bit worried that you hadn't really taken into consideration one of your learners is requiring wheelchair access, and if you've got a busy classroom with simulation, you know, with this simulated learning, how that person's going to navigate around the stations and simulation. So was the classroom a classroom that you could actually get a wheelchair into? Had you
I was going to make sure that was the case, but I guess I didn't think too much about the placement. Maybe when I went to do it I would, but I guess
no, it's
I need
been highlighted.
I need to make a note of that.
Make sure that. So maybe just in learning program part 1, if you highlight that you do need to take into consideration wheelchair access, you know, in that section that says special needs, maybe just add it into that section there, and then when it comes time to actually setting up the program, you're going to remember to take that into consideration. So the next section was learner-centric. So is the program taking into account the existing skills and knowledge and experience of the target learners? Look, I thought that you would. I might just talk about a few here at the same time. So I thought that you'd taken your chunking and sequencing, you'd done that really well, but I just wonder whether lots of lectures and PowerPoints is actually getting anything from your learners. So maybe encouraging more group discussion by adding in a bit of butcher's paper and pens and sort of like just getting people to actually talk about what their experiences are, just to encourage them to participate and share in the learning experience. Might just give a bit more depth to that. So that would be one.
The TAE as well, I think. So and I realised how that could work.
Okay, so the assessments, you got 2 pretty good summative assessments there. You've got a practical assessment, and you've also got a written multiple choice assessment. So really good summative assessments. No formative assessment mentioned, and I also wonder whether if you've got that going over 3 weeks, you could maybe, you know, just in class at the end of day 2, maybe pose a 10-question multi-choice paper just to get your learners in the mood for how to answer multiple choice. Then you could also go over the answers. Maybe if you don't want, I think that swapping papers is probably a little bit too school-like. What you could do is just go over the answers at the end and encourage groups to put forward what their answers might be to the questions. But you know, the other thing that you could do there is if the assessment wasn't going to be for a following week, you could give the learners maybe an assessment to take home with them so that they can get used to how to do multiple choice answers. I think one of your one of the learners that you identified in your special needs section of program part 1 was that person might need a little bit of help with learning and literacy, you know, like so maybe they could take that to the learning support and get them to go over that with them there. So it just helps a little bit. So we talked about chunking and sequencing. I think you did that really well. Activities, so you know, you've got some really good videos and lectures, and you're showing various techniques there. And we've already really talked about the group discussions, enhancing the learning experience, and maybe adding group discussions. I think that was pretty much it. Oh no, a little bit more. So learning literacy and numeracy. So we've talked about the way that you've done the 2 assessments, and that sort of caters for the LLM demands of your learning group. There's no way of knowing if the content has been understood, so we've talked about maybe implementing a trial multiple choice test so that you've got some idea as to how much learning your learners are actually doing, which is really good. And we've also talked before about the workplace health and safety, maybe implementing that wheelchair access to your room. It could be a problem if you've not got it mentioned in your plan. So I think that's pretty much it. The only other recommendations I had that I just noticed on your competency matrix, you just were missing sessions 9 and 10, which are probably the most important sessions to miss. So you'd done the 2 days, day 1, day 2 with the 8 sessions, but when it came to day 3, which was sessions 9 and 10, which was your simulated learning environment and your assessment, you'd missed those off. Well, that's kind of why you gave it to me to review it, isn't it? Because sometimes it was just overlooked, simple mistake. So, but really good review, well done. Thanks for inviting me to do that. I hope it all goes well, and good luck with your learning program next week.
Yeah. All right, and that concludes the session.